The ability to take and accept accountability is a life skill, it's a relationship skill, but it's also a sign of emotional maturity. Before we go any further, what is accountability? Because some people are using it and they mean something else. So I've heard people say that person needs to take accountability or accept accountability. And what they're actually referring to is that person needs to accept the consequences of their actions. And while that's often true in the situation, accepting the consequences and taking accountability are not necessarily the same thing. Sometimes people think that they are taking accountability, but what they're actually engaging in is self-blame, where they are not able to distinguish between their behavior and their character. Or they believe that by taking accountability, they're also accepting that it was their intention to cause harm or to be hurtful or impactful. And so that's when they push back. That's when they become defensive. That's when they say, well, that wasn't my intent, because they are internalizing the feedback that's being given to them as an indictment of their character. The ability to accept accountability is a skill because it builds on other foundational principles, and it's something that can be practiced and has to be practiced over time, which means you're probably going to do it imperfectly in the beginning. Now, the foundational skills that taking accountability is built on is self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-compassion. Taking accountability is a relationship skill because it can help you to successfully navigate the rupture and repair cycle. And if you're in relationships with people, there's going to be ruptures. And if you care about that relationship, you're going to want to make a repair. The awareness is recognizing that there's been some rupture, that there's been a mistake or a misstep, that a person has showed up in a way that is not in alignment with their values or has offended or caused an impact to another person. Within the awareness, there is also the ability and the willingness to accept influence. That when a person is faced with the opportunity to take accountability, they're receiving feedback from somebody outside of them that, hey, this thing that you did or said or didn't do or didn't say had an impact on me. And the ability to accept influence is to believe when a person says, hey, this had an impact on me, and that you're not diminishing it, dismissing it, or denying it outright. There is empathy that goes into that because a person has to care. They have to care that there's been an impact. They've got to care that there's been a rupture, and they've got to care enough about the person and the relationship to want to make a repair. Next, you have the self-regulation, because when somebody holds up a mirror and said, this thing hurt me, or you behaved in a way that felt inappropriate or offensive or unethical, it's going to bring up some emotions in you. And maybe that emotion is shame, maybe it's embarrassment, maybe it's anxiety or it's fear, but it's going to bring up some emotion. And self-regulation, another skill, is the ability to tolerate the somatic experience of an emotion when it shows up, and to be able to view the emotion as a message and not necessarily as an indicator of worth or worthiness or lovability. The last piece of that is self-compassion, because sometimes the discomfort that comes up when somebody holds up that mirror is shame. And shame often produces defensiveness, but shame absolutely blocks empathy. And so taking accountability is not an admission of malicious intent, it is an acknowledgement of an impact. And taking accountability is also an empowered place, because it allows you to say, oh, I behaved in this way, I can respond in make a repair. I can behave differently in the future. I can show up in a way that is more aligned with who I am, my character, my values, and my beliefs. If you find that it's hard for you to take accountability, or that you're interacting with somebody who struggles to take accountability, it may not be accountability that you or they are taking, but instead self-blame. Self-blame that leads to shame and blocks empathy. And the antidote to that is self-awareness, self-regulation, and absolutely self-compassion, and recognizing that if somebody is attempting to hold you accountable or bring to your attention a wounding or a rupture or an impact that they may have had, that is them saying, I want to trust you, I want to feel safe with you, I want to be in a relationship with you. And it's your opportunity to move towards the repair rather than avoiding the discomfort or the fear of consequences, retribution, disconnection, or escalation. If you find that you struggle with taking accountability, Then start with some of the foundational principles that prop up or support the ability to take accountability, like expanding your awareness, being aware of what your values are so that you know when you've moved out of alignment with them, having the ability to self-regulate, to feel your emotions and not avoid them or suppress them or lash out and put them on other people and make other people responsible for your emotions, as well as self-compassion, that you are imperfect, that you are human, that you make mistakes and you make missteps, and that there are very few mistakes that you make that cannot be repaired. That doesn't mean reconciliation, but you can definitely still make a repair.